Hello family, the geopolitical landscape in Africa is undergoing a significant transformation as Russia increases its influence across the continent, particularly in West Africa. This surge in Russian presence has led to growing concern among Western nations, notably the United States, France, Germany, and other NATO members. Today we will delve into how Russia is challenging Western dominance in Africa and why this shift has led to heightened tensions between Russia and the West. Before we start, please take a few seconds and subscribe to this channel for more of African insights. Russia's resurgence in Africa can be traced back to its strategic efforts to build military, economic, and political alliances across the continent. These efforts are seen as a direct challenge to the historical influence of Western countries in Africa. In recent years, Russia has made significant inroads into various African nations through military support, economic investments, and diplomatic initiatives, creating a complex web of relationships that undermine Western interests. In the Central African Republic, Russia has provided substantial military support to the government, helping to stabilize the country amidst ongoing conflict. Russian private military contractors, such as the Wagner Group, have been instrumental in training local forces and providing security. This involvement has allowed Russia to gain a foothold in the region, challenging French influence which has been predominant for decades. The Central African Republic's turn towards Russia highlights a broader trend of African nations seeking alternative alliances that do not come with the same political strings often attached to Western aid. Mali is another key battleground in the Russia-NATO struggle. Following a series of coups and rising instability, Mali's government has increasingly turned to Russia for support. Russian military advisors and equipment have become more visible in the country, filling the vacuum left by the withdrawal of French troops. This shift has alarmed NATO, as Russia's presence grows in a region critical to Western strategic interests. The situation in Mali underscores the competition between global powers for influence in Africa and the shifting allegiances of African governments. In Sudan, Russia has been strengthening its ties by negotiating deals for access to the Red Sea, a crucial strategic point for global trade and military positioning. This move is seen as a direct challenge to US and European naval dominance in the region. By securing such strategic locations, Russia is positioning itself as a key player in African geopolitics. Sudan's engagement with Russia is part of a broader strategy to diversify its international partnerships and reduce dependence on Western nations. Russia's influence extends beyond military engagements. Through economic investments, energy deals, and diplomatic initiatives, Russia is building strong relationships with African nations. The Russia-Africa Summit, held in 2019, showcased Russia's commitment to deepening ties with the continent, offering partnerships in various sectors including mining, agriculture, and infrastructure development. These economic engagements are designed to create long-term dependencies and strengthen Russia's strategic position in Africa. The increasing influence of Russia in Africa has not gone unnoticed by NATO and Western nations. The West views Russia's actions as a direct threat to their interests and influence in the region. This has led to heightened tensions and a renewed focus on Africa by Western powers who are keen to counterbalance Russia's growing presence. Western countries are increasing their military aid, economic investments, and diplomatic efforts to retain their influence in Africa, leading to a complex geopolitical contest. While Russia's involvement in Africa is often portrayed negatively by Western media, it is important to understand the perspective of African nations. Many African leaders see Russia as a reliable partner who respects their sovereignty and offers an alternative to Western influence. This sentiment is driving the shift towards closer ties with Russia, as African countries seek to diversify their international partnerships. For many African leaders, Russia represents a counterbalance to the often overbearing influence of Western nations. The rivalry between Russia and NATO in Africa is part of a broader geopolitical struggle. The West is concerned that Russia's growing influence could undermine their efforts to promote stability, democracy, and economic development in the region. This has led to a range of responses, from increased military aid to diplomatic efforts aimed at reinforcing Western alliances in Africa. The competition between Russia and the West is reshaping Africa's political landscape and influencing the strategic choices of African governments. Beyond the geopolitical and economic aspects, Russia is also investing in cultural and educational exchanges with African nations. Scholarships, cultural programs, and joint ventures in science and technology are helping to build a positive image of Russia among African youth and intellectuals. This soft power approach is another key element of Russia's strategy to entrench itself in Africa. By fostering cultural and educational ties, Russia aims to create a long-term foundation for its influence on the continent. Experts believe that the competition between Russia and NATO in Africa will continue to intensify in the coming years. As African countries navigate this complex landscape, they will play a crucial role in shaping the future of international relations on the continent. The choices made by African leaders will determine whether the region leans more towards Russian influence or maintains a balance with Western powers. This dynamic will have significant implications for global geopolitics and the future of Africa. Analysts caution that the ongoing struggle between Russia and NATO in Africa could lead to increased instability if not managed carefully. They argue that the West must reconsider its approach to Africa, ensuring that their strategies align with the aspirations and needs of African nations. Failure to do so will only push more countries towards Russia, further diminishing Western influence on the continent. The competition for influence in Africa requires a nuanced and respectful approach that takes into account the diverse interests of African nations. As Africa becomes the new battleground for global influence, the continent's leaders will play a pivotal role in shaping its future. The choices made today will determine the trajectory of African nations for years to come. The evolving dynamics of Africa's international relations will have profound implications for global geopolitics and the balance of power in the world. The ongoing Russia versus NATO struggle in Africa is more than just a geopolitical chess game. It is about the future of a continent rich in resources, culture, and potential. As Russia challenges the established Western dominance, Africa stands at a crossroads. The outcome of this struggle will not only redefine Africa's place in the world, but also the balance of power in global politics. The future of Africa is intertwined with the strategic decisions made by its leaders and the responses of global powers. Thank you for joining us on this journey through the evolving dynamics of Africa's international relations. Stay tuned for more in-depth analyses and stories from around the world. Don't forget to like, share and subscribe to our channel for more insightful content.